For more frequent video uploads, feel free to support AnimeKouhai at Patreon. The link is in the description below.
He kind of glossed over it the last time I asked, but
perhaps they've gotten so strong that there's no glossing over the subject any longer.
Well, who knows? I got all excited, thinking he had some kind of scheme in mind for them. But there's no doubt that he's using their elemental spirits to neutralize the magicule counts in them.
One could never leave their guard down around the Demon Lord Rimuru. A scheme, Yuki thought, could easily be in play. He shrugged.
True,
Kigali said.
And Shizuizawa was an elementalist capable of wielding high-level flame elemental. So is it possible, then, to use spirits to take the failed heroes that weren't fully summoned correctly and utilize them for their intended purposes?
This seemed to ring a bell with the jesters.
Oh, is that what Leon was after? He seems to be collecting otherworlders from failed summonings. You think he could raise them into fighters?
Now I remember. Ifrit used to be in Leon's service, too, wasn't he? Clayman ordered his armies to attack him several times, but Ifrit killed them all off.
And now he's using the same method to create more elementalists like Shizu? Then perhaps he deserves to receive those classified goods after all.
They excitedly talked among themselves. Footman may be right, thought Yuki. But that left a few things unexplained. The classified goods were, in fact, a group of children that had been subjected to failed summonings. Even now, in an undisclosed location, these summonings were taking place again and again, within the Western nations, while Shizuizawa was never informed. More attempts, of course, meant more failures, and it was Amrita and his team in the Cerberus group that retrieved them, as they could never be allowed to become public knowledge. They were marked as test materials, but there was another purpose meant for them. That purpose was the Demon Lord Leon. And Leon's order was to gather otherworlder children under the age of 10. Is Leon trying to build more power for a war? That sounds convincing, but why not do that himself, then? And by the way, he's leaking new theoretical summoning techniques to the Eastern Empire and Western nations. It seems like he's got other goals in mind. Better keep an eye out. Yuki couldn't reach a conclusion yet. Thus, he was forced to stick with the pact Leon signed with them and keep up their current obligations. Yuki frowned as he gave the jesters his orders.
Alright, I'll leave the negotiations with Leon to you. If you can determine whether he's trying to improve his armies or has some other purpose, try to figure it out. Misha is handling negotiations with Arazos, so take the goods from her and get moving.
Roger that, no problem.
Yeah, I'll do my best.
Very well.
Kigali smirked at her enthusiastic group.
Just don't get so excited that Leon figures out who you are.
Listen. Be as careful as you can, okay? We don't have the capacity to take on Leon as well right now.
The trio nodded at Yuki's reminder. Laplace and his cohorts were no fools. His trust placed in them, Yuki began to explain the details behind his plan. With the jesters given their orders, it was now Kigali's turn. She turned to Yuki, dour-faced.
So what should I do?
She was asking about the expedition into the ruins. But ruins was a misnomer. Really, it was a city that Kigali and her acquaintances knew well. Back when she was still the Demon Lord Kazalim, Kigali had constructed a defense system for a city that used the most advanced of magical techniques. That city was the so-called ancient city in question. Its name was Amrita, and unlike the surface zone protected by the system Adelman was part of, Amrita used a combination of a golem army and intricate, Kazalim-woven spells for its defense. Even Viola, the masterpiece Clayman crafted with the skills he inherited from Kazalim, was only slightly above average compared to the golems guarding the ruin. That ruin of Amrita, a ruin with such an impervious defense system, housed, in essence, the true hidden value of the puppet nation of Distav. Why were a bunch of ruins like Amrita guarded by such advanced defenses? To learn the answer, one has to go far back into the past. Long ago, a city of magic, once ruled by the elves during their heyday, fell thanks to their own foolishness. After riling the anger of a non-demon lord, the dragon princess Milam, it was wiped off the face of the planet in a single night. These formed the ancient ruins that are now referred to as Soma. The surviving elves swore to rebuild Soma someday, but they never did. Unable to resist the violent rage of the Chaos Dragon, the most horrid of monsters born of their own hands, they were all but forced out of their homeland. The Chaos Dragon was a catastrophe-level threat, not as powerful as one of the natural-born true dragons but still nothing the elves could have ever handled. Thus, the surviving elves scattered across the land, each taking their own path. The unlearned peasant classes, lamenting their sudden misfortunes, relied upon the elven leader. Those with more strength and intelligence cleared out space to build their own nation. Some of them simply fled, blending into the background. Thus, thanks to only a small handful of people, the elves' glory days were over. Now the Dark Elves, accursed by their own sin, set off for new and distant lands, hoping to escape Milam's watchful eye. Kigali, the demon lord Kazalim, was among them, one of the few members of elven royalty to experience Milam's rage and live to tell the tale. Not a demon lord yet at the time, Kazalim built a city in the region he eventually found himself in, modeled after his homeland. It was his way to leave everything elven technology produced intact before it was gone forever. That city was Amrita, the capital of the puppet nation of Distav. Kigali shook her head, driving the memories from her mind.
Amrita's defense system is still active. Could we use it to lure Rimuru into a trap?
Based on their previous promise, Kigali would be joining him as they explored the ruins in Clayman's domain. If she was asked to direct Rimuru into an ambush, that would be simple for her. Besides, the only real threats in Kigali's mind were Milam and Veldora. If she caught Rimuru alone, she thought, she'd be able to do away with him. She had no doubt she could activate the defense system, at least. But Yuki didn't waste a moment to reply.
That sounds like a neat idea, but you realize the Demon Lord Milam might be joining you, right?
Well, I think we can work something out. If it's simply activating the system, I can do that without coming under suspicion.
Kigali, or Kazalim, had already had a nation destroyed under her feet. Yuki worried about whether that still traumatized her, but she didn't seem to pay it much mind. She had transformed from an elf to a dark elf, then to a walking dead and demon lord. Any hang-ups she had about Milam had been fully conquered in the midst of that. Did that mean Kigali thought she had a chance against her? No, it wasn't impossible so much as it was suicidal.
Alright, in that case, have at it. I doubt it'll defeat him, but I was just thinking we need some data on how well Rimuru can actually fight.
You think he can handle all that?
Oh, no doubt, so please don't do anything that might reveal yourself, alright, Kigali? I know he's suspecting me, but right now, you're neither a friend nor a foe to him. Be careful that you don't give him any kind of information.
I know, boss.
They smiled at each other.
Great. In that case, we'll all go make contact with Misha.
And I'll stay here and keep preparing. So what will you do, boss?
Me? I'm planning to contact Amrita and expand our bases of operation in the east. That way, if something happens, I can always flee over there. But first...
Oh, so you are scheming something, then? You're telling us to lie low, but you're out pulling who knows what.
Yuki snickered.
Nothing like that, Laplace. It's just, you know, I'm thinking I should play whatever cards I have in my deck. I haven't given up on ruling the West, after all.
He grinned, and then, as they sank into the darkness, the Magic-born quietly began to set their plans in motion.
Volume 10, Chapter 1. A Brisk Labyrinth Business. Part 1.
The Tempest Founders Festival had ended in a resounding success. Those hectic days of preparation and festivities were now a good 10 days in the past. Our VIP visitors, as well as the common folk who visited from neighboring countries, were already gone. The same was true of Fuse and the King of Bloomend. They had hurriedly made their departure, promising to discuss matters once they had returned home. Gazel, the Dwarven King, had left in a similar rush to build the science and technology research team he was planning to send my way. Meanwhile, Elmija, Emperor of Thalion, was nice enough to purchase one of the lodging houses in the swankiest district in town, near our reception hall. She had a teleportation circle installed in one of its rooms, ensuring she could visit anytime she wanted. That's the rich for you. When they buy into something, they go all the way. I still remember the superiority-laden smile Elmija gave the clearly jealous Gazel. Chances are he'll march right back to Dwargon and have their treasury authorize the cash to purchase one of our villas. Maybe I should be thanking Elmija. Even better, she agreed to continue employing our local people working there, under the same conditions. Rigard was handling all the details, arranging for regular cleaning, meals when Elmija was staying, and so forth.
Of course, next time I pay a visit, I'll do so by transferring my consciousness into a homunculus. That might prevent me from enjoying myself to the fullest, but...
Your Excellency, we cannot allow such selfishness.
Once again, the mere fact that Elmija left her nation's boundaries sent shockwaves across Thalion. Not that it was any of my business, but in Erald's eyes, it must have been unbearable. Simply mobilizing the Magus, the top-level night forces protecting Elmesia, presented huge national defense concerns, apparently.
Ah, I see. Would that apply to Ellen, too?
Ellen, being Erald's daughter, was elven herself, although her ears were the regular, rounded human sort.
No, Ellen can visit in person. Homunculi have their flaws, after all. Spending too long in one can have adverse effects on one's own body.
Your Excellency, please do not reveal state secrets such as this.
As Elmesia had let me know on the sly, Ellen had been using certain potions to change her appearance and travel the world unhindered. This alarmed Erald enough that he apparently assigned a small army to stay in the background and guard her unnoticed. By the way, it turned out that her companions, Kabul and Guido, were both Magus members, too. Shocking, I know. So after all that whining about deploying the Magus outside the country, he assigns 2 of them to guard his own daughter? Erald's such an overprotective father.
Really? But they didn't look like anything impressive to me.
When I ran analyze and assess on Kabul and Guido before, they seemed unremarkable in terms of strength. But when I asked about it, Erald just frowned.
This is also confidential, but fair enough. Their abilities are actually being restricted by the magical rings on their fingers. Their restraints are lifted only when Ellen is in truly mortal danger.
That was kind of a surprise. So Thalion's magical tech was a level beyond what analyze and assess told me. That said, my analysis skills back then were a far cry from the accuracy I enjoyed now. Maybe I'd notice the concealment this time around. For that matter, maybe I should stop resting on my laurels just because I analyzed something once. Next time I see those guys, they're definitely being scanned again.
Please take good care of my daughter, then.
Okay, see you later.
With that, Elmesia and her crew headed back for Thalion, riding a ship pulled by a dragon lord for protection. By comparison, the demon lord Luminous had it easy. With her vast magical force, she could cast spatial motion as much as she wanted, so she just poofed her way back home.
That's it for this video, guys. Thank you for always watching my videos and supporting my channel. Shoutout to Nightgazer, Scratch Good 3, Sama Nisan, Kanara MLBB, Ice B, Wobbalubadubdub, Charlie Kale Tesoro, Catherine Roxas, Kyle Fortin, and last but not least, shoutout to Arizona. I'll see you guys in the next video.